David Longstreth is the remaining member of the experimental rock / art pop collective group Dirty Projectors, a band that has had many members over its time and many fantastically bizarre albums. Longstreth, however, is left to continue the project on his own, and certainly puts up a very interesting breakup album as a result. I say breakup both in, the usual relationship kind of breakup, specifically referring to that of David Longstreth and Amber Kaufman, the latter of whom has since departed from the group, but also breakup as in the band breaking up. As such, it's a very personal album for Longstreth. Well, that should be obvious. The subject matter is kind of pertaining to his experiences, his memories with the band, and it becomes very touching, very emotional, especially when it comes to just listening to one of these tracks after just being a fan of their previous projects. Like, the presence of any backing vocalists is gone. It feels weird, but it just does feel noticeably, I don't want to, might not be the right word, but emptier without Angel or Amber having their backup vocals heard. Honestly, it was what helped make the mood on albums like Bete Orca so bright and cheerful. Still counting on resource. And in contrast, their self-titled album is much moodier, kind of cold, a little bit just unsettling. Listen to something like Little Bubble, and how the plinkering piano on the chorus totally sounds like some sort of despondent farewell tune.
We had our own little bubble for a while.
And the whole farewell thing kind of makes sense considering Longstreth sings on the chorus, "We had our own little bubble for a while." And a lot of the tracks here aren't really on the experimental rock kind of spectrum, but more just leaning towards a jazz / R&B / soul kind of style of music here. It's a little different, but I think this change in style really does fit the kind of mood that David Longstreth was aiming for on this new record. I'd take a lyric from Up in Hudson, one of the jazzier tracks here, and one that hits hard with a line that reminisces on older songs that the group had written together, specifically dropping the name Stillness is the Move, which David Longstreth wrote for Amber Kaufman. Some tracks even sound absolutely frantic and just scary. Towards the end is where there seems to be some kind of realization or clarity, with songs like Cool Your Heart being much poppier and a little more, effervescent, featuring a line about how it's time to stop making decisions solely based on another person. Now, even if the conceptual aspect of this album is very well down pat and very well framed, not every musical choice is solid, because remember, it's a music review. It's about the music. Sure, the message can be part of the music, but at the end of the day, you still need to have a concern for how the music sounds. Not to deny this album of many musical triumphs. Again, I should mention something like Little Bubble, Up in Hudson, Cool Your Heart, but there are kind of certain musical flops too, like the pitch-shifted vocals on Keep Your Name, that kind of make the track sound like a bootleg Anoni song.
What we imagined and what we became.
With a very screechy, glitchy manipulation to the vocals during the chorus that kind of goes followed by an awkward rap verse on the bridge that just sounds really ugh.
I wasn't there for you, I didn't pay attention, I didn't take you seriously, and I didn't listen.
Or maybe on a track like Ascent Through Clouds, which initially sounds beautiful, it sounds sweet and serene and heavenly, just like you're floating up in clouds, until the auto-tuned vocals come in. Then I start to think, really? Not a strike against autotune as a concept or as something to use in music. There are certainly many artists that use autotune well. When it comes to this track in particular, I see that David Longstreth is probably trying to experiment with, autotune and such, but it just doesn't sound great against, the instrumental. It totally blows the elegance of the track. You know, musically, this thing can be a bit shaky at times, but there are some great tracks, so it's not all bleh. But, you know, I do have to congratulate David Longstreth for kind of framing this album very well as kind of a post-breakup sort of thing. And actually, it's very clever in that regard. I'd give this album a 6 out of 10, in all honesty. Yeah,